All
People come
right. We got a good show for you all tonight. What's up, Blueprint family? Thank you all for joining us. So we have a interesting topic, um, and the topic for tonight is relationship happiness. We will be going over how couples can check in so that they can stay connected. So we're going to explain that, and we had a question for tonight as well. So we have a letter, and then we're going to explain what that means as far as relationship happiness and checking in.
Yes, I want to make sure. I want to make sure we're good on the thing for the sound check as people come on in here. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to pull up the question. For those who are new, we love to use a question or a video to inspire the topic for us to talk about. So tonight's question is pretty different. But it takes the angle we're kind of going to take with it is how to check in with your spouse, when things go a little rocky or when they're actually going pretty good, but you just want to check in and ensure everything is going to go according to plan.
They call it copacetic.
Yep, for sure. So the subject for this one, is this normal? As a man in a relationship of over 2 years, I've often found that as the guy, you're expected to automatically be happy or at least completely emotional stable in any situation. I can understand that it's partly just from social construct that men are supposed to be level-headed and stable, and I don't mind that too much. But it'll get to situations where I'll be on the verge of freaking out from a stressful situation she knows full well I'm in, and then will get upset when I'm short with replies and get distracted. For the most part, I don't mind because I'm not generally emotional, but I've been grinding like mad because of some things I have going on, and she got upset because I wasn't sending full replies. Is this common in healthy relationships? And if not, then how can I go about trying to correct it?
Go back if you don't mind. Well, are they texting or something? I'm sorry, I kind of missed the.
Yes. So he's basically saying that lately, I'm assuming this is his girlfriend he's been with for 2 years. And lately, whenever I'm assuming she texts him, he says, I'm short with replies and get distracted. So it could be a little, they're apart, or maybe even together, like he gets distracted by what's going on because he has a lot of things going on in his life
Right.
right
Why?
now.
Why do you have to get upset about short replies? That's one thing. And then the common solution to this is to pick up the phone and call the person. Yeah, just pick the phone up. Especially if you know that you and your spouse have a hard time communicating through text messages. I don't know. I don't recall the proper term, but you lose emotional cues, and it's hard for you to understand what that person's feelings are when you're reading a text message. So it is always ideal, especially if it's something important, to call your spouse, call your boyfriend, call your girlfriend, so that they don't get frustrated with you when you have short replies.
Better understanding, so you're actually able to communicate. Yeah, for
Right.
sure. For sure. That's why, in particular, in times like these, I would recommend what we would call a relationship happiness check-in. And you would think, why would you want to do a check-in right now? Well, when you offer the opportunity to actually sit down and have a conversation, a regular conversation, this conversation will be centered on the state of your relationship, and it'll offer up the opportunity to chances to talk about what's going on, what could be improved, what issues are going on, and to even make plans for the future. So anytime you have a situation like this in particular where it seems to be a young relationship, well, I mean, 2 years is not really young, so that's kind of something I think we might want to get into because this is quite a long relationship.
They may be young people,
Right? Yeah, that's true because no age was
and they're
given
not ready
here.
for marriage. Maybe,
Right,
I don't know.
right. But offers that opportunity, right?
Mhm.
To bring up, if it is a young relationship in the sense of maybe mine, right? Or commonalities of things that y'all have talked about. It offers the opportunity for then you guys to really dig into building, addressing those situations. And we're going to go into how to do this and probably even some more tips on just in general why you need to do this for sure, because this is really useful for all relationships to do. And I really recommend them for all relationships to offer that opportunity for you guys to have that conversation. So, but in particular too, we're also going to get into stress. We kind of hit on this a little bit yesterday about your environment, and if your environment is stressful, how it could hinder dating. Yeah, and in particular, this is the case of how it can hinder a relationship. So it's super important to know how to work through stress when something arises, either as the spouse who is stressed out or the spouse who's not, or maybe even both of you all are. In that situation, it's important to know how to work through those. So we're definitely going to get into that as well. But I wanted to see, did you have anything else for the question before we head on into?
No, but more so for the viewers.
Okay.
If you all have any questions, this is a live call-in show. So we encourage people to ask us questions, whether it's in a comment or if you are going through something, you can chime in. You can also video call us or what have you. So if you feel compelled to, please, send us a message and we will respond live on air. If not, you want to remain anonymous, you can also too book us for consultation sessions at www.wifeconomics.com. And then also too, you can leave an anonymous message at that same website too, www.wifeconomics.com/submit a question.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
But either way, you are where you're supposed to be, whether on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Thank you all for tuning in. This is hopefully going to be a great show that you all are able to take something from. So let's get on into what this relationship check-in is. Because believe it or not, it can be done in a variety of different ways. And it's really based on, how you all would prefer it. Would you prefer that structured format or something maybe even like a checklist or, just a set of questions? It can go any type of way when it comes to how you're going to do this. It can even just be a simple free-flowing conversation, but it's really going to also be based on what it is that you want to address. So that's really kind of what we're going to be digging into, because the whole goal is to have this open and honest conversation. And we always like to say, whenever you're looking to have a conversation with your spouse, you should always know your intention of what you are looking to get accomplished through this conversation, what you're looking to express through this conversation, so that then you're able to plan and strategically word whatever it is you have to say, so that both of you all are receptive of this information and can, feel heard and understood through the conversation. So here's some simple benefits of this check-in. In particular, kind of what I was talking about earlier, it can help you identify problems early on. So I think that's why I said this will be, really helpful for this couple in particular, because they seem, like they haven't addressed a lot of different things. Because when it comes to communication, that's actually something that we would really recommend that you tackle early on, maybe like what we said, like 3 months, like when you've really dug into like how you communicate, maybe even if y'all haven't had any type of arguments by like 6 months, maybe even having some conversation about what that would look like, how you all argue or how you express your anger or what it feels like or looks like for you when you're upset. All of this stuff is super helpful to get out in the open early, because the earlier the better. Then you're not 2 years in and struggling with
communication,
like
right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I talked to a coworker today about relationship and communication and how early it is important to get the communication down, meaning having arguments and seeing whether you all can work your way through those arguments, and especially for those people who say that they don't argue. What does it look like if you did something to piss your spouse off and it is horribly upset with you, and then you all are already married? Do you all back out of that marriage? No, of course not. You all work on those things, but it can be harder for you to work through those issues if you haven't worked through those before marriage. So that's what we're trying to tell you all. That's the message that we're conveying today. But that's what we were talking about at work was that it- is you may be in a relationship where everything's just running smooth, but you may be curious to see whether you're going to be able to make it with this person or not. This may be a form of trickery, but it may be a good thing to piss that person off first and then see how well or how receptive they are to what you have done, and then then problem solve it.
That's one way to do it.
Right.
I think that's the risky way of doing it.
That is a risky way of doing it, but
I would ask.
how would
How
you
would
know?
you figure it out? And like kind of
Right.
ask.
I mean, but you don't do anything like infidelity or stealing,
Yeah.
or don't do anything to break the law,
Right.
or something that would damage a
extreme.
marriage.
Mhm.
It could be something like, I don't know, find out what triggers them as far as like something small, like hair in the sink for like a man. Some men don't like hair in the sink. Women do their makeup everywhere on the sink. Or I don't know what women leaving the toilet seat up. See what happens if she fell in the toilet, left the toilet seat up, and how you all handle that situation.
Yeah.
And I say this because how realistic is it that you all don't argue in a boyfriend and girlfriend situation, which is the audition for marriage?
Yeah.
How are you all going to act in the real world of marriage when you all haven't been tried and tested?
Yeah.
So that is something that you all really need to consider. Now, if you're lucky enough to not argue and you don't have any arguments in your relationship or marriage, and you make it to marriage and everything is great, then so be it. But a lot of people, choose irreconcilable differences when they're pushed into a corner, backed into a corner of a cycle of argument. And that usually comes during the marriage, of course.
Yeah.
So you really need to understand how to communicate and what works for you.
And maybe even like see if some avoidance is in that. If you are
Right.
like avoiding all of this, and that's important to recognize so that you don't do that. You don't want to walk on eggshells. You don't want to silence yourself. You want to actually be able to,
Right. I mean, because how many people stay in relationships when they're walking on eggshells?
Right.
How many people are in relationships and they just try to avoid confrontation with somebody?
Right.
And then it always comes up, and it's it's cyclical, and it keeps coming back and over again.
Yep.
What are you doing to make that situation better?
Yep.
Nothing. If you're doing nothing, then how can it get better?
Right.
You're just letting it blow over. No, it doesn't work that way. Ultimately what happens is that, either you all get into a situation where you're arguing and then competing against each other, and then ultimately you end up in a divorce. So you don't want those things to happen. And it's very important to conflict resolve. Arguments. It really is, because it's hard trying to be with somebody that you don't get along with, let alone can't communicate with.
Right. Right. And that's another reason why this relationship happiness check-in is super beneficial, because it helps keep the lines open for communication, to where you are becoming more and more comfortable talking to each other about the difficult things, expressing to your spouse about the things that you don't like, about the things that you do like. And more important, you do this in a healthy way, because you've set the stage for an opportunity for this to happen, not allow conflict to move about that change, because that's really what conflict is all about. Conflict is actually a tool that the universe uses for change. It creates movement. It's hopefully going to spark up some type of difference, and that will, lead to betterment. Ultimately, that's the highest goal of it. But, sometimes it doesn't reach that point. But either way, just being able to have that open line of communication is definitely going to strengthen your relationship and keep both of your spouses, both of you all, committed to working through your relationship and not giving up and not being, fearful of that because you haven't experienced that. It kind of be like a fear of an unknown if you haven't done it. You'd be like, oh, I'm nervous about when we're going to fight. Like, you don't want it to be like that. Like, it's okay. You're going to have those disagreements. So get comfortable with the idea of, it's going to be times where she gets on your nerves or he gets on your nerves. Like, that's just,
it's natural.
Yeah, it's natural, but it's how you respond to that, how you come back from that, how you move forward from that, that's going to matter in the relationship. It's really not the conflict per se, but yeah. So if you're interested in starting this whole relationship happiness check-in and you haven't, done them before, here are some tips for you to, go ahead and have this conversation, because I think that would be helpful for this guy to maybe introduce within your relationship as something that you guys are doing on a regular, so that you can bring up little things like this, so that she can understand, because that's really what communication is about. You want to have that understanding. Something as, like you were saying, small as texting short
Right.
stuff isn't
No,
that big.
yeah, because I can relate, to what he's talking about. It could be times where I don't feel like communicating at all, and it's just
Mhm.
me. It's nothing personal,
Right.
and it seems as if she's taking it very personal that he's being short with her.
Yeah.
So she takes that as a sign of disrespect,
Yeah.
and in no means that he's trying to disrespect her.
Yeah.
So
It's just stress.
they have a situation where they have a communication gap, so they
Mhm.
don't understand this portion of communication. Like I said, it's always best to call that person so they can hear the flexion in your voice or in your emotions.
Yeah.
So that's very important.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go ahead and get in with these tips.
Yeah. So, of course, first, as we always talk about, being able to choose that right time, that right place. So you want a time and a place where you guys are actually comfortable, you're relaxed, you're able to have this conversation uninterrupted. You don't want it to be like right before you got to go to work, or in the morning, or maybe
Right.
even right after work. Make it a time where you're both available to get your
Right.
feelings out
And also
and
too,
thoughts.
make sure that you all understand the intention. Oh, we're
Mhm.
getting emojis. Yes,
Oh,
those
that's
emotions.
cool.
You like those.
Thanks. Those are cool.
Yeah, so use your emojis like this person is just doing. That could help as well. So
Yeah.
no, but make sure the intention is there too, that you both are ready to sit down and talk.
Right. Yeah.
So you just can't. One person just can't pick. All right, we're gonna pick right now, and we're gonna talk about it right now. No,
Mhm.
that's not
Right.
realistic.
Yeah.
So you want to pick a time and place, but make sure that you both agree on the intention of trying to resolve the conflict,
Mhm.
not talk about each other and badger each other and beat each other down. It's not a bash fest.
Yeah.
So you're trying to focus on the issue.
Mm-hmm. And in particular, just start off by asking each other, simple questions. Maybe, how are you feeling overall? This will give you a general cue as to if this is still the right time and place. Because sometimes you can think that it maybe is, but then, like you said, you come talk to your spouse and they flip out and you realize it ain't. So,
Right.
I mean, just be mindful of that. And that's okay too. Just take that as your cue to be like, okay, not now. Let's wait a little bit. But in particular, you want to have questions ready. So say this is the right time. Go ahead and have your questions. If this is something that you like to do question wise, we recommend always writing in a journal. That helps you establish your intention first, right? Even write that down first. Establish what your intention is for this conversation. That will really help you when you go down and you continually to write out your conversation or your questions. It really keeps you on track pretty much. So just start off maybe how you overall feel about the relationship, questions or statements like that. Really target your I am, statements, not so much you are, or, you did, or you made me feel, but, just more so I about you. So then that way your spouse is understanding that this is the time where you're expressing yourself. You really kind of got to be specific though when it comes to this happiness check-in. And again, that's why the intention, setting all that ahead of time is important, because you have to be specific. You need to tell them what you're happy about, what you're dissatisfied about, what you would, like to see improved. Anything of that nature would be great to kind of start off with. If, y'all can even give this like a cute little name of like, I don't know what you would call this. Maybe like check-in time. I don't know, just a time where you guys will both understand that, oh, this is going to be the time for that. You want me to zoom in?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. We see a question, a comment. Hold on. I don't always forget. What is it? The Windows Plus for the Zoom. There we go. Okay. So don't use the word you, because they're going to feel attacked.
Mm-hmm.
I like, if you're blaming them, it's better to say, I don't like this because like this makes me feel this type of way. Yep, exactly. You got it. That's seriously what it's all about, because you don't want them to feel attacked, like you said, and then they're gonna be ready to attack you right on back. Right.
And that's how arguments start.
Yeah.
And that definitely is. You got it.
Yeah.
But that's definitely how arguments start. When you start focusing on the person instead of the issue.
Right.
You know, in this
Exactly.
case, for example, the issue for the female is the short text messages.
Yeah.
She can say that I don't like short text messages because it makes me feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
And then she can talk about how she feel because of them. And then he
Mm-hmm.
can tell her that, well, you know, I don't intend to hurt you in any way at all.
Yeah.
But the reason why this happened was because I was busy doing X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is the way to handle that. Normally what happens is this. I hate it when you do that. You write
Mm-hmm.
these short texts and they get on my effing nerves or whatever the case may be.
You ain't think about me.
Yeah. What are you doing? Who are you hanging out with? What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And then he says, it's none of your business. I don't care, or whatever the case may be. You get on my nerves. You always do this. And then you start generalizing. Then you start putting people in these generalization boxes, saying that you always short text me. You must be hanging out with somebody. And then you make assumptions, and then you draw yourself into saying things that you wish you didn't say.
Right.
That you regret saying. So that's how arguments happen.
Yep.
And it is a lack of self-control. It really is. But these are things that we practice. If you haven't had good conflict resolution skills, we're laying down that blueprint on what it looks like.
Yeah, because it's really too about mindfulness, just being mindful of how am I coming off, how am I being perceived, like how is my spouse going to take this, how would my spouse feel if I said this, how would I feel, you know? It's just that awareness and that mindfulness. Mindfulness is super, super important in a relationship in particular, if not in your daily life in general, but just that is something to really be able to practice and put into practice if you haven't. Another kind of way we kind of talked about, so like questions like how are you how do you overall feel about the relationship if you don't have anything too specific to get into, but you just want to again check in with your spouse. You could cut in with a statement like that, or what are you happy about with our relationship, or maybe even things like what would you like to see improved. We kind of stepped on that before. This would be great for her to maybe communicate like, oh, in this moment when we have this conflict, or maybe when you after y'all have established y'all thoughts or whatever, then you go, when this happens and you feeling this way, then I think tell me, that you're feeling this way, and that,
you're feeling
up
triggered.
front, or up front you don't feel like talking or something like that. Like it opens up the opportunity for then you guys to figure out, okay, well, next time I can do this a little different, or next time I'll say this, so then that way, we're able to, work around whatever the issue is that's going on. It's really about how you approach things differently, because then again, that conflict is going to create that movement. So your movement needs to be what you're going to do different, how you're going to change, because if you don't, then the conflict's just going to come right back, because that's what it's trying to get you to do something different, move, like change. It's kind of how that goes. But another kind of simple question, I'm gonna go down some quickly questions that you could pretty much attach to any type of check-in. Like we said, this can apply to anything, and it should happen pretty often, especially if you aren't married yet, in particular, especially if you've been dating for a long time and y'all haven't really established what you're doing and how's this going, or just you don't really know like how this person is really genuinely feeling. So if you find as you do these check-ins, your spouse doesn't open up as much, especially if this is a new relationship and it's kind of hard, be patient with your spouse during that time and just continually offer the opportunity to have these check-ins with each other. That's what I said, if you can give it like some type of name or some type of something that you guys will recognize, like, oh, this is going to be the time where we do this, and make it normalize that. It may seem weird or like I don't know, cheesy, but we have to normalize things like this, especially when it comes to a relationship. We do it all day long. Like sometimes it's checking in like, oh, how's it going, how you doing, what's going on. So hold on, let me plus it again. Gotta get a
I would think you would ask these type of, you can go on a date, especially if you're dating or going out and on the weekends with your spouse.
Yes.
So we have a question.
Let me see. You want to read it? What advice do you have for? What advice do you have for someone that's too nice? I feel like I'm always trying to please others. I feel, and then end up taking advantage of me or not being respected. I thought like I should speak up more. I feel like I shouldn't be aggressive, but definitely more assertive, taking initiative and leading. Is this a man? Because this will apply differently for a man and a woman. Yep. Okay, sorry, I had to look at your picture. Yeah. What would you say? You start with that.
Well, you also end up taking, what is the question? When you have someone who's
He's
feel
like
they're always trying
to please others. Yeah.
please others and end up getting taken advantage of.
If you want, I can go on this because you know how
People pleaser.
I dealt with that early, but yeah.
Yeah, because I never really I'm not a people pleasing person. So
Yeah.
But you know, coming from a male point of view, the thing is this: you have to establish respect early, in the relationship, and that's something that we talked about before, is understanding roles, relationship roles. So as far as you have to make sure that who you're dating or your spouse or what have you, you have to establish your intentions, and then also to your boundaries. So things that you will stand for and things that you don't stand for. So the thing is this: are you allowing yourself to be taken advantage of? Think about that. So that's a review for you. So if you're allowing yourself to be taken advantage of, then more than likely you're going to be taken advantage of, if you get what I'm saying. So you may need to review yourself and see what the areas of your, the area of the situation, and then not follow that route to allow yourself to be taken advantage of. If it's a female that you're dealing with and they're always talking about, can you help me pay my bills, and you're not getting anything out of this relationship, you're setting yourself up to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So you just have to recognize the red flags in the people that you are associating with, and then know not to deal with these people. But like I said, when you initiate contact, early and with these people, before you all get deep into a relationship, you let these people know what you stand for and what you don't stand for. So you need to establish those boundaries. I don't appreciate, for example, if there is a person who's always asking you for money and you give it to them, you tell them that, these are things that I did in the past, but no, I can't help you, when it comes to this money, especially if you're not getting anything in the relationship. Now, if you got a female that you're working with and they're doing everything and they're showing wife qualities, then why not help them? But that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about it when my idea of someone getting taken advantage of is that, you're paying all of their rent. You're whining and dining this woman, and you're getting nothing in return. So you understand this: men choose relationship. Men propose to women. So you have the power to establish relationship with women. So if these women are not cutting it, if they're not being reciprocating to what your needs are, so establish what your needs are, establish what you like in a relationship with these females or this female. If she's not providing you of any benefit, then you need to leave them alone, especially after you've addressed it with them and you see no results, because that's when you start being taken advantage of, because you're still hanging around these women. So I would advise you not to hang around women that do this to you. But like I said, if you come into a new relationship, you establish your boundaries and say, hey, I like, women that do X, Y, and Z for me, because it shows love. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone to genuinely love you for who you are, not the stuff that you have. It's easy to love the stuff that someone has, especially if you don't have it. But it's more important that you establish the relationship with love and understanding first. So it's important to set those boundaries and talk with that person about what you stand for and what you don't. And if they leave, then that love was never in the picture. Those were not the intentions. And I've seen plenty of examples of this, since I've been here on earth. And that is one thing that we don't do, is to set boundaries early in relationships. Because what happens is that you get carried away in the relationship, and it ends up being something that you did not imagine that you were supposed to be in. So it's you in a sexless relationship, a relationship, like I said, it's just a waste of time, money, and effort. So you can better utilize your time and money and effort somewhere else.
Yep.
So that would be my advice.
Yeah, you hit it spot on. That was always when it comes to that. Kudos for you to even recognizing that that's something that you have and that you are working on getting into check and control, because it's really all that you have to do is those boundaries. Like you said, that's like,
because when I would, that's information that I wish I had when I was younger, dating different women and whatnot, because I was taken, for a ride too. I mean, it's something that happens with young guys, especially just growing up, especially without fathers, or seeing what healthy relationships look like,
or assertive leadership, what that looks like. Right. I know he kind of mentioned that, because that can be, especially if you were raised by a single mother, like that, it can, and you then go get into a relationship with a woman.
Yeah, because you're yielding to the woman.
Yep, because that's what you're used to.
Yeah,
like, and naturally that's how it will come off. Well, you'll kind of want to just please her and make her happy, kind of like the son wants to impress the mom, you know what I'm saying, or make the mom happy,
or either you're just scared of your mom.
Yeah, right. And a lot of that too can stem from just, it depends on where your people pleasing behaviors got picked up from. Of course, it depends. Like, it can come from all sorts of things, but if you have some type of trauma that's connected to that, it's really important to see, like, maybe where that trauma, that, or maybe even kind of something that I did way back when with like therapy, with getting that in check for me as a woman though, but I think it'll be helpful for men too, is to think back to that traumatic event maybe, and what you could have done different in that moment of time, and kind of think back of how you would have preferred that to have played out, how yourself could have kind of healed differently from that. Because then what it does is it kind of rewrites the brain chemicals that come from the overall people pleasing connection. Because like I said, it's really often connected to some type of traumatic event, some type of traumatic childhood, or something of that nature, where it caused you to think that, oh, I have to overexert myself or overly do so much just to get that person to love me or give me some attention, or I gotta prove myself, when you don't have to prove yourself. You don't. A real person who loves you is not going to require you to prove it. That's the love is going to be, I love you for you. I like you for you. Like, this is cool. I'm interested in getting to know you. Like, you don't have to go and do the most just to impress this person, because they'll already be genuinely impressed by you and your spirit and how you come off. And that's really important. But people pleasers are actually really good people, because you've taken the different route versus being abusive. I think of that. The trauma can go one or the other way. You can either choose to be abusive, just like whoever abused you, if it came from that, or you could choose the, I'm not going to do that, type thing. That was the, hold on. Let me zoom in.
I think that was the same one. Yeah.
Is it? Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But
someone jumping out. Yeah.
Yeah. I just hope that
kind of hard to pay attention to that.
Yeah, but that's the information. That's the advice I would give. Just make sure that the people that you're dating have the intention of ultimately being married.
Yeah.
That's the best thing that I can say too, because a lot of people, their intentions are not aligned with marriage or relationship. Is they always have this sort of like this secret motive,
what they want to get out of it.
What they want to get out of the relationship, and ultimately it becomes clear.
Yeah.
I've had women approach me. I get their number back in my past, get the number, the next day they're asking me for money, like, can you pay my rent? And I'm like, I haven't even went on a date with you. No, matter of fact, lose my number.
Yeah.
Like it's just real out here. I understand, what I'm saying? Like, I understand like the condition of certain people, and it's getting more and more prevalent now these times too, as the economy is not as good as it used to be. It's harder for people to pay their bills and rent. And then, wait until we got to start, people got to start paying their college loans. My goodness, people then switch their college loans for home mortgages. You think people begging and pleading now, wait until after October 1st. It's going to be a whole lot of different weird stuff going on out here dealing with other people. So y'all be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, kudos to you for even recognizing that so that then you can work on, setting up those boundaries, figuring out what you need and knowing, oh, I ain't getting that reciprocation.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't let yourself be taken advantage of.
Right.
You ultimately, what's the statement, the quote I always hear, and I can't think of who said this, but the way you allow people to treat you is what you're basically going to allow throughout the whole relationship. So
Right, yeah.
however you are saying, like, I'm going to let you do this
Right.
now, and this is going to be it.
Right. Because that change is not going to be accepted midway through the relationship. A lot of people don't take change
Right.
well, especially if they've been in a relationship for a while. And then all of a sudden you change up and want to start being assertive and a leader in the relationship. A lot of times that's not received well.
Yeah, because it's too late. I mean, you already showed that was okay for it to be the other way.
Right. Unless that person really loves you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So what happens as we end up dating women that are no good for us, and we kind of try to like save them, and we just end up getting taken advantage of? But now that I realize, I'm like seeing who I get my energy to, and choosing wisely. Yeah,
precisely.
Yeah.
There's always going to be women out there that's wanting to be saved.
Yeah.
And I mean, also too, there's going to be a lot of average men out there that want to be saved as well, or less than average men that want to be saved too by women.
Yeah.
With incomes. But right, you're right. So
experiencing it, I think just experiencing that in general helps you to better recognize, like you said, this isn't the optimal, place for me to try to give my energy and my, love and affection to. Because if it's not received and you're not getting nothing back, like my husband said, it's not. Unfortunately, that's one of those times where you have to put yourself first. It's super important, especially when you're a people pleaser, to always remember to please yourself. You are the first people that needs to be, you're the first person that needs to be pleased first. I just thought of that because it reminds me of our kids' book. We have one of the kindergarten books for the kids. It talks about kind of how when you like with people and all the different type of people that are out here, you can't possibly look to try to please all of them. The first person that you need to try to please is yourself. So if it's not feeling good for you, if this relationship does not give you those feelings of love, and hopefully what love really genuinely feels like, then you'll be able to know, oh, this ain't that, and nah, I ain't gonna take this. I'm good. Yeah. You don't even want that. Like you said, you don't want that energy.
If you're dating somebody and it feels like they don't want to serve you, and you're trying to serve them, stop dating them. Because you're wasting your time. If you're dating somebody and then especially don't get into the point where you're living with this person. My God.
Certainly. Yeah. The earlier you recognize it, the better.
It's going to be hell. You're going to be going through hell. You're going to wish you didn't do that. And no, don't do that.
Yeah. And the more you recognize it, I think the better you'll be at recognizing this isn't the person to, give my energy to, like you said.
Right. Yeah. You need to value yourself and not do these things early in the relationship. Like I said, establish those boundaries.
Yeah.
Watch out for those red flags of women who are dating with the wrong intentions, and then let them know that, hey, I don't, giving out money early in a relationship is something that I don't do. Now I'll pay for your date or what have you, but I'm not going to go out here and start splurging on you or you don't have to compete. Don't compete. More than likely, there's a double standard world. Women more than likely compete for men, and then that's just the double standard of dating. Or either guys who don't make enough money, they may be competing for women who have money, or whatever the case may be. That's the double standard.
Hopefully not. I mean, that goes into, I guess, the dynamic. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I wouldn't actively seek out a woman that makes more per se, because your dynamic is going to be quite.
No, you shouldn't. But let's be honest.
Yeah,
a man who's making $35,000 a year, wouldn't you feel safe dating a woman that's making $90,000? Some guys would say yes, and those are people who are not, alpha males or a sigma male in your relationship. You're a beta male, and you don't mind taking a back seat.
I would say, Mr. 35,000 man, you go ahead and get you a woman who is a hard worker at McDonald's or Burger King and say, baby, I got a better job for you.
Yeah, but I don't.
I mean, I'm just saying that's
Got a
what,
better job
in
for
the
you.
sense of being a helpful wife, a wife. When I think of that
Yeah,
wife,
but for
like
$35,000.
we did it. It's the building of the aspect of it. I know we always try
Yeah,
to
that's a
tell the
potential,
man
but a
to,
lot of
yeah.
times these women out here want the finished product, and that's what the problem is. They want a man who already got everything.
Right, and that's again, while it's important,
Important
you
for
know,
the man
yeah.
to actually build himself up, build himself up as much as
Yeah.
he possibly can, then go out there and then start dating.
Yeah, because you put yourself in a less risky situation, or the opportunity for you, you know, to be taken advantage of, or the woman not really be in it for you. But
Right.
in my ideal thought of a relationship, is it to be okay for a man to not have to make so much and a woman still be ready to come in and help further the man along in his path, wherever he is, whatever he's doing, being able to help him get further along in his path. Not saying that she doesn't have to work. That's still, I worked when I think you were making like 20-some thousand. We were fresh, you know, into your career and stuff
We weren't
like
married
that.
then, though.
No, we weren't married then. Exactly. But the potential of where, for one, we were already together in a good relationship, and then just knowing that, okay, we can do this together. It is so much easier if you find someone that you can work with, but the
Right.
world that we live in now is different. Modern times is so different, and it's unfortunate, but you know, if you are one of the lucky ones to be able to, what I would think of, find a woman who may not have as much as you and see if you can tell her, hey, I got a plan. I love it when a man can say he got a plan and all he need is somebody to help him with it. I think in particular, that would really help a man along the way. If you don't make a lot of money, but you know, like, I have a plan and all I need is a little help, you send out that intention and you create that environment for it to happen, you could have a good relationship.
Yeah.
What do you say? Can you got?
Yeah, we'll post this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we post all of our videos, so you'll be able to
yeah,
watch it from the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. We always do. We got you.
Yeah.
Hold on now. Let's get back into our topic a little bit because we
But though, I
this
do
is a
want to say
live show,
this.
so that's great.
I do want to say this though. In return, we do have a YouTube channel too. So all the Instagram followers out there, we do post it on Instagram and YouTube. YouTube is in high definition. You're not hearing the volume from the mics on Instagram, but you can hear it on YouTube, and you'll see it clear on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
So we'll post it there, and then also too, if you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
As well.
Thank you guys.
And share our videos. We love y'all. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
But
everybody
yeah,
is tuned in. It's a good night.
Yeah. So we're going to continue. I mean, this is a great topic. Because a lot of people get, taken. A lot of people get taken for a ride because they don't know what their intentions are in the relationships. They don't know where they at in the relationship, and they just go about it in an about manner.
Hoping for the best.
Right, hoping for the best, but it's really a strategy to everything in life, and including to relationships too.
Yeah.
We always say that, relationships is a job. It's something that you have to get better at, something that you have to review, something that you have to consciously, keep in mind, especially your significant other, so that you can progress, move along, because this is hard out here. It's getting harder and harder by the minute.
Yeah. Yep.
So these are questions.
No, we're gonna project. It's getting better and better by the minute.
Well, we're making it better and better.
Yeah, we're gonna hold this steady vibration, the cord that you all need to be able to bounce off on and latch onto. Because I truly believe it's going to get better and better. Because more and more people are waking up to what a real relationship looks like. Yep, and how to actually do it. Yep, and it takes, again, we talked about it earlier, a little conflict, right? So I kind of look at this whole dating scenario as there's a lot of conflict going on. So it's a movement going on. And in particular, we're going to hold this steady vibration so the movement is, helped. So some general other questions for this happiness check-in that we talked about. How are we communicating with each other? That's a big one. So that goes right back to the beginning question that kind of kicked off this whole topic anyway. This young man and his whole relationship of feeling like the communication is off. Like, dang, you snapping on me and I'm just, not in the mood for talking. You got to communicate those things. So being able to talk about, how we communicate, how can we improve our communication? What are some things that you would like to see done differently?
Yep. And then also too, are we spending enough time together? Of
Mhm.
course, you may think that we spending enough time together, but your wife or your significant other, your
Yeah.
female friend, she may not.
Yeah.
So also too, are we making time for each other's individual needs?
Yes.
That's a good question.
Yes. And we're gonna get into this a little bit later. We're probably gonna run a little late tonight, but we can tag on, and I still want to get onto the whole stress aspect, because stress is super important to kind of tackle when it comes to a relationship. And
Let's
this
get through
guy
this
said that
question.
he was, stressed out. Yeah. So what was the next one? There we
Are
go.
we making
Oh yeah.
for each other's needs? Are we sexually satisfied?
Mm-hmm.
That another question to ask there.
Yeah.
For a review of your relationship, are we financially stable?
Yep.
That's another one.
Yeah.
That's very important for especially men as providers in relationships to move laterally
Yeah.
through our careers so that we can provide as much income for our families.
And stability
Right.
in particular. And it's not saying stability doesn't mean wealthy, rich, or anything like that. You can be stable and not, it's about living under your means and making things happen with,
Right. But the driving force of that question really
Mhm.
is the inflation of our economy. And
Yeah.
that's the reason why it's important for men to move anybody. If you're the breadwinner in your family, it's important for you to move laterally up
Yeah.
so that you can you can keep in pace with the times. And what I mean by that is inflation. So, financially, you have to be sound there. So
Yeah.
you can't be complacent, can't be stagnant when it comes to your income. I know a lot of people get very comfortable with their jobs or what have you, but
Yeah.
you got to switch it up. It's all about the survival of your family unit.
Yeah.
And if we're no longer hunters and gatherers, and it doesn't come down to the best hunter and gatherer either.
Yeah.
So
That is true.
in the 80s, a brand new car was like $5,000.
Mhm.
I can't find one of those today.
Yep.
So, that's just an example. And then the housing market is messed up too. So, if you were trying to get a mortgage and get a house, you got to, show that you can pay those bills by having a good amount of income.
Yep.
Whether both you and your spouse are working. So financial stability is very important.
Right. And then also, are we on the same page about our future plans? So that's huge, especially when it comes to your relationship check-in. This is something that has to be done. And in particular with this guy, he's been in this relationship for 2 years. This is one of those long-term relationships where you guys have to make sure that you're on the same page about your future plans and what that looks like. And of course, throw in any other question that you can really see. These are just some, general questions that will really help anytime you feel within your relationship you need to have this relationship check-in. It doesn't even have to be when it's the time where you guys are, actually going through anything. Again, this is just the time to actually, take an honest and open look and conversation about the things that are important for you and your spouse in your relationship. It's a big thing to do that. Yep. Some other tips that we simply have.
I think we had another question.
Oh yeah. Thank you. That's sweet.
Yep. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
All right. So being willing to listen to your partner's feedback and to make changes if necessary. Your spouse's feedback. I don't really like the term partner, but it's interchangeable. I get it. But in general, when you are doing this conversation, you have to, again, set that time so that you're both able to listen and hear each other out so that you guys can really understand what's going on and feel heard as spouses within your relationships, or maybe even partner. I see why I put partner, because in that particular thing in your relationship, you are both coming together and having this team and forming this team. So you want to make sure that you both are heard and, feel in a way understood, respected from that too, because you're just like, hey, I'm not going to brush you aside and, not taking consideration what you're going through, how you feel and stuff like that.
Yep. And then make a plan of how you will follow up on the conversation.
Yep.
So you want to, that involves another check-in. So
Yeah.
you want to check in, for the next date and say, hey, what the progress is like, we've been getting better at communicating. We understand where our intentions are.
Yep.
We are respecting each other.
Mhm.
You're providing me with what I need. You know, you're providing your wife with that emotional support that she needs.
Yeah.
She's providing you with the respect that you want. So you can basically get a status update.
Yes.
So from the follow-up.
Yes, that is.
And that's
so
ongoing.
True.
You know, that's pretty much ongoing.
Yep, and it keeps it going. Like, that's the great thing about it, just actually being able to say, like, this is something that, hey, we like, especially when you can have those good conversations, right? Like you were saying, the next time it's like, hey, this is good. We're doing good. You know, those, and then it's going to be a shorter conversation and maybe even a little celebration afterwards. That's really what it's all about, keeping you guys connected. Relationship happiness check-ins are really a valuable tool for you to use at any point in your relationship. And if you're not already doing these, please, please, please start them. I really encourage you to give them a try within your relationship, whether you've been dating for 1 week, 2 weeks, or 5 years, whatever it is. These are great to do. So please take the time to go ahead and do those.
Right.
And thank us later, because it'll pay off. It really will. It really,
right.
really will.
I mean, I could think this, you know, especially for men, and if you're dating somebody new, a female who's new, she probably will be impressed by all these questions that you're asking. To be honest with you, and especially if she's, you know, into you and she really has an intention on being married to you. So she probably would really appreciate that, because it sounds as if that you're very interested in her.
And looking to grow the relationship, keep it going, because you're talking about the future, you're planning, all of that is great.
You know, because these are questions that I would have never thought of in my younger self. You know, I didn't, you know, and that's something that we talk about too. You know, stop asking those fluff questions like, what's your favorite color? Or, you know, what type of shows do you watch on TV and stuff like that. That's cool and all, but those questions that we gave you all tonight are big ones where you can basically establish relationships with. So
yeah, that's true. So one last thing that we want to get into, this man mentioned that, you know, he was stressed out, and helping your spouse when they are stressed is super, super big. This is something that you're going to need to use and be able to do all throughout your relationship, especially if you get married, because then it's lifelong and you're going to have times where either you or both of you are stressed out. And this can be challenging, especially if both of you all are stressed out, because, you know, that's what stress does. It really does, again, just make things a lot harder, especially when it comes to communication. So if you or your spouse is stressed out, here are some things that we recommend in particular. So for this guy, hearing this, you may want to go and tell your girlfriend, like, hey, these are some things. Maybe if even your whole check-in is about this, like, how can we handle stress in a better way? These are some things that, you know, we could do. Or in particular, these are some things I would like to implement so that I feel better supported within the relationship while, you know, whoever is stressed out, kind of how that play out. Or if you happen to notice that your spouse is stressed out, these are the things that you're going to want to do so that you can support your spouse. And first, you had talked about that already. Don't take it personal, right? Because that is what's happening.
Right. Yeah, don't take it personally. When your spouse is stressed, it's okay to take their negative emotionals.
Well, it's easy.
It's easy. I'm sorry. It is easy to take their negative emotions personally.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that their stress is not about you.
Yeah.
It's about the situation that they are in. And often at times it's not even you who triggered them to get stressed out. So, but often at times your spouse is taking their stress out on you.
Yeah.
So just remember that, you know, to gather yourself and make sure that you don't get angry and upset back with them, because that will start an argument. Just understand that they're stressed out and they need some support.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it really, like you said, it's not about their spouse in that moment, but you have to be mindful to not make it about your spouse by being mean to them, because then they're going to feel hurt. And
it ain't easy. I'll admit that.
Yeah, it isn't, for sure. It really isn't. That's, again, where it takes that moment of recognizing yourself, like, hey, like, whew, I'm stressed right now. Like, you know, and being able to verbalize, right? And being able to verbalize that. Yeah. And you'll get more comfortable with that as time goes on in your relationship. Really, all of this will become, hopefully, secondhand, you know, super easy, like something you just routinely do.
Nature.
Second nature. Yes. Thank you. I'm tired. second nature. Yeah, it really does, because it's something that you've put into practice so many times. It's like becomes wisdom in a way. Another great tip when it comes to your spouse is to be a supportive listener. So let your spouse know that, you're there for them. In particular with this young lady, if her boyfriend so happens to show him this because he asked the question, it's great to take the time to just recognize that, hey, check in and say, hey, are you feeling okay? Like if he gives you that short text that you don't like, you check in and you say, hey, like, you feeling all right? What's going on? Are you, things okay? You just really want to offer that opportunity for your spouse to vent, especially because he did mention that he said, she should know about, her, that he was stressed out. So if you certainly already know that your spouse is stressed out, and instead of kind of responding in a negative way when you see like them doing or acting a little differently because they're responding to stress, it's just really important to offer that opportunity for your spouse to vent to you, and you listen to them and you really understand and take in what they have to say. And of course, listening doesn't mean that you're trying to fix their problems or even offer advice. I wouldn't even recommend that, especially if it's, your spouse is going through something per se. Sometimes they just really want you to listen and let them know that you're there for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially as men, we're naturally fixers. So when we're approached with a problem, we're just trying to fix it as soon as possible. And a lot of times dealing with women and their emotions, they really want you to listen to them.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
what I've learned.
Yeah. And it's actually easier to just do that, to kind of just, listen and let it be, especially if you don't have much to say, because part of being a great communicator is listening, truth be told. And women, you have to recognize when your man is listening too, or even men. If your woman you're letting her know how your day, you're venting, the great way to kind of, signal like, hey, I appreciate this, is to tell them, especially if they have just been sitting there nicely and they're listening. You say, hey, thank you for letting me vent. Like, I needed to get this off my chest. Let your spouse know. You guys have got to get used to being appreciative openly and verbally with each other for even those small little things like listening. Yes, it matters, especially women. When your man actually takes the time to listen to you just go on and on and on about your day or whatever the case may be, he will be more likely to listen again if you tell him that, hey, I noticed that you're listening and I appreciate that. It's a nice thing to do.
Add that eye contact in there as well.
Yeah, for sure. But if you do want to, you can offer practical help. Like, for example, if your spouse is feeling overwhelmed, you can offer to help with, some tasks around, maybe picking up some of the slack wherever they're, got a lot. Yeah, if they got a lot going on, whatever the case may be, how you could be helpful for them, but not so much, trying to fix it, but just how you can, be practically helpful in their way. Men and women, this is going to apply both ways. It's can, like you said, it can apply from anything from like, doing the dishes for your spouse so they can relax a little earlier, or, taking the kids to school, or, however that can apply.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I mean, here's a real world example. You was laid off on your job or fired or quit or something, and you were stressed out about that and told your spouse. Hopefully, or either if your spouse told you that, I got laid off today, then what you do, you help them to, hey, don't worry about it. We're going to put together some resumes and we're going to put your application out there. So help them to do things like that to show them that you really care.
Right. Yeah. There's not so much like, trying to, I don't know. Yeah. Like you say, you're just helping to take the burden off of their shoulders a little bit and whatever.
Right.
And this can apply to anything. You're just really looking to help your spouse feel less stressed. That's, you want to offer that. Don't make it worse. You want to be helpful and make it, better at the same time.
So encourage them. So also encourage them to take care of themselves. So stress can take a toll on your physical and emotional health. Yeah. Encourage your spouse to take care of themselves by, of course, eating healthy, getting enough sleep, and exercise as well.
Yeah. Yep, that's a big one. And you can also suggest something like relaxing, or maybe something relaxing that you guys could do together. Listening to music, taking a bath, whatever. Just offer yourself as creating, helping to create that space for stress. Hold on. I'm gonna zoom in. Always. You get so far when you get the out of the person's stage, you're down 97% of the stage. Hold on. Go back. I'm sorry. You get so far when you get the other person on the stage, you're down 90. I don't know what that means. I'm lost. Say it again. Clarify. Can you clarify? Don't quite know what you mean. But we're gonna wait for you to clarify. Clarify just a bit so I can understand. What you're saying. Do you get that? I don't quite get that.
The person the stage, you're down 90% of the stage. I don't know. Not sure.
Yeah. Clarify, please. In the meantime, another thing that's really helpful for if your spouse is stressed out, to being able to helping them find healthy coping mechanisms. So in particular, if you know any healthy ways that you like to, cope with stress, offer this as something that your spouse can maybe look into doing. Things like exercising, meditation, spending time in nature, any of those healthy ways of being able to cope with stress is a great thing for your spouse to adopt, especially if you see that they're not doing this. So for this young man in particular, when you're stressed out, kind of like we talked about, make sure that you are taking care of yourself and recognize if, I'm contributing myself to my stress by not getting enough sleep, not having no food to eat, or, not doing those things that are going to relax me and increase my dopamine naturally within my mind. Another, be patient and understanding.
Yep, it's important to be patient and understanding with your spouse when they are stressed, of course. They may not be their usual self and they may need some extra support. Just be there for them and let them know you love them.
Yep. Yeah, that's super important.
Of course, encourage them to seek professional help. So if your spouse's stress is severe or long lasting, encourage them to seek professional help. A therapist can help them to develop healthy coping mechanisms and manage their stress in a more effective way.
Yep. Certainly if they are struggling, even more if it's like long term or if it's getting worse, you notice that they're not, responding to the normal things that do cheer them up. Be able to recognize this for even your spouse if they're not, seeing like, hey, I'm spiraling here, That's the nice part about having a spouse too. But that is all we have for our whole little relationship check-in topic tonight.
Yep.
Unless you got anything else.
No, that's it. Because, this is something that a lot of relationships don't do. A lot of people in relationships don't check in with each other. They just, like I said, we just all go about it in a about way.
Yeah.
We just enjoy each other, then fight with each other. It's either or, but we don't really. There's a way to better understand each other.
Yeah.
And that understanding comes when we ask these questions and we do check in with each other about those. So
yeah. Because that is super important. There we go. You have to give the person 70% of the stage of the spotlight. Make them feel important. I don't know. Just listen to them. You have to think of it in percentage wise.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to make them feel important. You just more so make them have to feel heard and understood. That's what women like. What I've realized is that they just want to be heard, like a sounding board. So they want your attention so that they can get off their chest what they have to say and what they want to say. And a lot of times, they may not get that response. They're not looking for a response. A lot of times, sometimes they're not looking for a response unless they ask a question.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to portray and what we're trying to explain.
Yeah.
Was that realistically, that's all they're asking for. Eye contact in your ears. That's it. To be honest with you. But when someone asks you a question, that's when they're looking for your input.
Yeah.
A lot of times what may happen is that in those situations, your significant other may be talking to you. You're not giving them eye contact. You're not even halfway listening to what they're saying. And then they ask you a question. You don't even know how to respond. So that's what we're trying to say here as far as, giving them that, being a good listener. just being a good listener to them, you know, because unlike guys, you know, we don't really put that much. I know I really don't. You know, if I'm talking to you, I just say what I say at you. Sometimes I don't need you to respond, but if I do, I just ask you a question. I don't get upset about that if you weren't listening. But sometimes females do. You know, if you don't listen to them, they feel you didn't hear a word that I said. You know, I don't even know why I talk to you because you don't listen to me. Then you start hearing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's a way to prevent that from happening is by having clear eye contact. And it's not so much, like I said, it's not about
percentages per se.
Yeah, it's not about a percentage of the spotlight or the stage.
Just like keeping score.
Yeah.
We never recommend that whole keeping score within a relationship. You kind of want
that's when you start getting into, you know, competition or trying to compete with this person over attention.
Right.
You know, we don't want to compete over attention in a relationship.
Right.
That's what you and I try to, you know, talk about. We're not trying to say that at all, but in the time of need, when you're with somebody and they need your attention and your time, then that's how you openly be clear and present with them when they need you.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about.
Especially if they're like stressed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in particular, men aren't as wordy as women are. I think women in particular, we find clarity in our thoughts by verbalizing things first. So that's naturally why women talk a lot more.
Right. I mean, but you know, as a man, like if I'm strategically trying to do something, I like to put it into words and then ask, what do you think about that? You know, how about we just go do this, we do this, and then do that, and then come back here. Then how does that sound?
Yeah.
You know, of course, you know, things like that.
Yeah. But yeah. Men and women, we just think differently. We process things differently. We communicate differently. And it has to be something that you come to accept and acknowledge and then understand so that then you can find that way of what works good for both of you. So like, you know, it will depend on the relationship. Maybe the woman isn't as talkative, but like my husband was saying, in those specific moments, she is going to need you to really be listening and paying attention to her. So especially if she's like stressed out or whatever the case may be. So,
right. I mean, it works for women too. Women need to also listen to their spouses, their husbands, their boyfriends too, when they got something to say. Because, you know, I come home from work and I'd like for my wife to hear about my day. You know, this happened at work. I usually tell a lot of the negative stuff. And that's mostly what it is about too, even with women. You know, something happened to them and they just want to tell you about their day and what had happened.
Right.
I'm not really looking for input, just trying to get it off my chest because, you know, it was a day.
Right. And that's established in your relationship as time goes on. In particular, you'll know what your spouse needs and why they're communicating at this point and kind of when they would want that, you know, that's because that was something that we recognize. Over
because
time.
I always try to fix things. Well, you know, I always, why you ain't do this? And then you may get into a situation where you're cutting the person off because all you're trying to do, especially as men, we're just trying to get you to be quiet. So you just got to actually learn, have patience, and then just try to listen and be a good listener, active listener. Women really appreciate that. Don't try to cut them off and then say, hey, well, you know what? You should have did this. Don't do that. Don't do that.
What's that? The unsolicited advice.
Unsolicited advice. It's not about that at all. So
yeah.
All right. Well, hey. All right. We got another question. Are you guys going to let us jump on the live?
Yeah, you can jump on the live and stuff for sure. No, yeah, for sure. That's what we certainly have us do. We have for those who want to know how to do this, we're actually going to
start what, blogging?
Start blogging. Yeah. Well, to be honest, this is about the furthest we're going to go with it because along with the wife school that I had, the wife economics course, don't really have that much time and 3 kids and everything else within ourselves. You know, blogging probably won't be something we do, but this is why we do this. The link is it's easier on our YouTube if you want to click the Restream link because you have the option of not being on screen. That's another reason why, for those that don't know, why we recommend the YouTube thing. If you don't want to be on screen, you can have your whole icon thing on and just be talking. Or we've had a live on it's been
Instagram.
A couple of weeks. Yeah, but
we've had lives on Instagrams. I mean, this is a live call and show at any time if you want to, you know, chime in and have a response to something or even ask a question.
Yes.
We encourage people to actually, even if it's something that you want to talk about, we can go off topic for a moment.
Yeah.
And then
like we did tonight.
Right. And then talk about what your situation is. Well, that's what we're here for. This is our service to our community. So that's
Yep.
the way that me and my wife look at this,
Yeah.
all of this. So
Hit us up tomorrow, though, for sure, if this is something you're interested in. If you want to request to go live or something tomorrow, or anybody else that wants to request or actually talk in, we don't bite. We're here to help. So, yeah, feel free and comfortable to do that. And hopefully, as we continue to do this and more people join on, you all will get more and more comfortable so that we can have the conversations and the dialogues that are really going to help move our community and culture forward to create more families that actually sustain a lifetime like they're
Right.
really supposed to.
Yep.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Blueprint family, thank you all for joining us tonight. This was a great show.
Yeah.
Love the interaction. We see that you know we're making a difference. With that being said, join us tomorrow night. You all